Hello, Child TCG here, and welcome back to another deck profile in the Palkia and Evolved format. Today we're going to look at Chien-Pao and Palkia Vstar. Is this a really new archetype which could really make an impact in the format, or could this be a Miraidon which disappears and disappears very quickly? So how is Chien-Pao doing right now in the meta? So it's doing all right, being about a 9.5% of the top 8s in the last few tournaments it's had. Has got a couple wins with 5 wins under its belt, and the rest of it being pretty solid overall. Very high top 8 numbers due to it being quite an impact by having a high percentage overall. And it's really strong with its incredible powerful ability Trembling Force. You can get 2 basic water energies from your deck, put them into your hand, and do multiple attachments with absolute 0 on Excalibur or Origin Form Palkia's Star Portal ability, so you can flood the board state with her, so you can do huge amount of damage with Hailblade. Now, it is very quick to set up with it being stage 1 and even the stage 2, but because you have Irida, it's super easy to get Excalibur and Rare Candy together. With that being said, it's very reliant on abilities, and it could be very much a glass cannon if it doesn't get set up and they get KOs on the Excalibur's basic evolution. So let's jump in to see the list overall. So this is my basic list, which I based a lot about what's been performing well over in Japan in this first few weeks of competition. So we play 3 copies of Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is an amazing Pokemon, like I just said, that incredible ability, so you can constantly get as many energies as possible by using the retreating aspect of it. Because we have Skater Park, the energies which you would get discarded from Chien-Pao go straight back into your hand, so you can utilize Chien-Pao's ability again, so instead of you losing 2 energies, you now gain 4 energies. Very, very powerful way you can try and ramp up to do as much damage as possible with Hailblade. Because of it's very expensive with the constant discard, we need to have loads of cards to kind of get the energies back very quickly. Not just using Superior Energy Retrieval, which I'm very glad this is reprinted. Discard 2 cards from your hand and get 4 energies, up to 4 energies from your discard pile, but don't use any of the cards you discarded to get it. We run 2 copies of Palkia Vstar. Very, very good sort of secondary attacker in this list to deal good 260 damage. But it's also good for that Star Portal ability, so you can flood the board with some 3 energies on your water Pokemon, so you can either put them on Luminion to bounce that back into play, use Radiant Greninja, so you can get a cheeky 2 prizes that way, or of course on itself and Chien-Pao to deal massive amount of damage. Because item lock isn't too much of a thing, that's why we run a 3-3 line of Excalibur. Excalibur is really, really good with that absolute 0 ability, making you flood the board state with as many water energy as possible. And then, like I said, we have some support Pokemon like Radiant Greninja to help withdraw consistency, Luminion to get the right supporter when you need it, and Manaphy kind of protect the bench. Because Excalibur's basic really isn't very strong, but having only 60 HP, it can easily be KO'd from Radiant Greninjas and, of course, Sableye. Very much a quite scary sort of combination. I think this is definitely a good sort of line for Pokemon. You could arguably potentially add one more line of Vulpix, because that would be really, really helpful, especially as Vulpix is really going up there in the meta. We also play for some item cards, 1 copy of Super Rod. Always good to have some recovery cards, especially in this sort of meta. Switching out, we do have 1 Escape Rope and 1 switching card. Escape Rope is really good for having Disruption, and because you're playing quite a few of the evolved ones, it's good to have the switching out there. And switching card is good to get the extra little healing which you might need if with Chien-Pao. Item support, like search cards, we do play 3 copies of Ultra Ball, 3 copies of Nestball, as well as 4 copies of Battle VIP Pass. Battle VIP Pass is key and crucial at the start of the sort of game, so you can flood the Pokemon as many as you need as early as possible, and then late game they become really good fodder with the Ultra Balls to get the evolved Pokemon or Superior Energy Retrieval. And like I said, item lock isn't too much of a thing, that's why I run a 3-0-3 line of Excalibur. We can play 3 copies of Rare Candy to get it as quickly as possible due to having a high count of Irida. We do play 4 Iridas, and Irida is such an amazing supporter in this sort of meta. Getting any water Pokemon you might need, plus an item card, is super, super strong. Teaming up with getting that Irida with Excalibur plus Rare Candy, you can immediately get into Excalibur turn 2. Then after it, we do play quite a few disruptive cards, 2 copies of Boss. I think Boss is much more superior than Serena right now, due to having EXs and basic sort of non-rule IV Pokemon being more superior in that sort of ways, and 2 copies of Iona. Iona is just an incredibly powerful card, which should be added in at least 2 to 3 copies in nearly every single deck. Then 1 copy of Research. This is kind of like if you go second, your turn one supporter, kind of like dump the hand, try and get as many energies and get your board set up as quickly as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, we do play 3 copies of the Skater's Park. It's a really good way to kind of like team up by constantly having all your energies always preserved and utilizing the Chien-Pao's ability, so you can use it twice in the turn, and instead of having just 2 energies, you get 4. And we do play the, I forget what it's called, I call it the Cape of Toughness and reprint, give Chien-Pao an additional 50 HP, boosting it up to have 270 is exactly what you need. Even attaching it to Aluminium or Manaphy can really help protect it in the early game. And to round this list up, we do play 10 copies of Water Energies. We never need too many due to how much recovery we have with Superrod, Palkia's ability, as well as superior energy retrieval. We don't need to worry too much about playing a high amount of energy, because we have constant ways to recycle the energies. This is a rough sort of list of Chien-Pao. I think it's a really strong, really powerful archetype. I think Palkia is definitely the way forward to play it with this list, because it's a really good secondary attacker, as well as an additional energy accelerator, which the list could potentially need. Matchup wise, I would say it's kind of 50-50 around the board state. It has a pretty good of the big sort of Pokemon like Lost Zone Tina, Mew, and Arctina. I think it's got a really good situation to do really, really well in that case. Because they don't need to go too much to do these big sort of damages. Chien-Pao can obviously mostly get knocked out the next turn for most of the thing, but as long as you initiate the prize trade as quickly as possible and potentially even use Greninja to surprise your opponent by getting cheeky 2 to 3 prizes that way, I think that's when you're going to be in a much better position in the game. Miraidon, I have put you a little bit ahead of it, even though these two are kind of competing against each other as a new archetype to try a new beatdown archetype. I think Chien-Pao is doing a lot better, and as we saw on Monday's Looking Ahead video, we saw that Miraidon has taken a real big step back compared to Chien-Pao in its sort of position in the top 8 metagame. Negatives, I do think Lugia is really much a struggle at times because Lugia can hit those high numbers very quickly. It can really kind of challenge by using Stone Journey to get those the one-hit KO with being a single prizer. And the same thing with Weirdeer. Weirdeer is becoming much more the more popular archetype of Lugia right now, and it can really struggle with those big one-hit KOs that Weirdeer has to offer. Lost Zone Box, if they're going back to playing the Zamazenta, it hits for weakness, even if they play like, there's no unfortunate like energy damage and increase, but if you knocked on one of your Pokemon, the Zamazenta gets immediate one-hit KO, but most of the board, as they're also playing some Raikus as well, which could be a bit devastating. Gardevoir potentially could be a 50-50 split, but I think Gardevoir does have a little edge. Like they can go a bit slower, but then they can use single prize after single prize after single prize to get those one-hit KOs that sort of way. Potentially even team up with a Zacian and Sky Stone at the end to get 3 prizes on your Palkia Vstar. And Ting Lu is kind of increasing a little bit in play, which could obviously be a bit detrimental to your game plan by locking you out from playing anything in the game, because all of your Pokemon, which except Chien-Pao, have abilities which will be shut off by Ting Lu if they have any damage counters on. So overall, I think it's a really decently placed in the metagame right now. I'm excited to see how it is going to go forward in the next couple of weeks while we wait for the next big tournament in Japan in the start of next month. Could Chien-Pao really kind of take it in there? And I thought I'd just showcase you a little bit more about some of the deck lists and profiles and explain a little bit more before the set comes out for us in June sort of time. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this short little deck profile video and kind of explaining about the thought process about why you play a certain number of cards, how this deck kind of shapes up in the meta, and if it is definitely something to be playing. Overall, I think this is definitely a strong contender in the next format. I hope we're not going to see like Miraidon where it's just going to appear and then disappear after the next set. I hope it kind of keeps up there and it's going to constantly use so many different attackers always time. So this isn't like an optimal Chien-Pao list. It's always going to develop over time. If you're brand new, please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below if this is a list that you want to try out, and if you're thinking this could be the way to play Chien-Pao, or you think we should play a lot more Alolan Vulpix because that's a lot more powerful in this meta right now. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.